Good news, you're getting a new colleague. Bad news, they know everything. They work 24/7 and will happily take the parts of your job you thought only you could do. That's essentially what happened on August the 7th, 2025. A quiet, surgical insertion of something into the world that, if you believe the early adopters, changes the way that work gets done forever. That's because ChatGPT-5 is an invisible coworker that doesn't clock out, doesn't get tired, and doesn't just follow instructions. It's a participant. The headlines you've seen, the benchmarks, speed tests, look, it can write a haiku in Portuguese whilst refactoring your code. Cute. But today, we're going past the party tricks into what this thing actually does to your job, your industry, and possibly your sense of self. Let's talk about it. Here's the big idea you need to keep in the back of your mind. ChatGPT isn't one brain, it's two wired together with something like an air traffic controller for thought, constantly deciding whether to give you a quick answer or send the request down into the deep analytical abyss. And that choice happens invisibly, millions of times a day. Let's start with work. The last generation of models gave you assistance. ChatGPT gives you a process. In software engineering, OpenAI's developer note cites a 74.9 score on the SWE bench. That's a benchmark where the model fixes real GitHub issues by producing patches that compile and pass tests. For context, OpenAI's prior high reasoning model, often referenced as O3, scored a 69.1 under the same protocol. In practical terms, you get fewer dead ends and less babysitting. According to OpenAI's system card, the router learns from conversation type and tool use to decide when to stay light and when to go deep. That means the model can sketch a UI quickly, then switch to deliberate reasoning to untangle a gnarly dependency without you doing anything different. On the enterprise side, Microsoft's official Copilot announcements say ChatGPT-5 is now inside Microsoft 365 Copilot, Copilot Studio, GitHub Copilot, and Azure AI Foundry. The Verge described a new smart mode that auto-switches models inside Copilot. Translation? GPT-5 becomes the fabric inside your email, your documents, spreadsheets, code review, and agent orchestration. And Azure's team went further in Azure AI Foundry's GPT post. They preview agent services with policy guardrails, browser automation, and model context protocol connectivity. That matters, because we're tasking systems that can fetch, act, and report back with logs. So what's the net effect? 3 shifts. 1. Cycle time drops across analysis, drafting, coding, and Q&A. 2. Variance narrows because the router standardizes when to think hard. And 3. Auditability improves in enterprise contexts where agents run under policy and telemetry. There are 2 unreported design choices you should know about. First, routing. OpenAI's system card names the fast model as GPT-5 main and mini, and the deep reasoners get GPT-5 thinking variants, including a pro mode in GPT that runs parallel chains of thought. In API land, developers can hit the thinking models directly. In GPT, the router often chooses for you. This feels subtle, but it's a new UX contract. The app decides when to think. Secondly, safety posture. OpenAI's release note claims reduced hallucinations and less sycophancy, the tendency to agree with you even when you're wrong. Independent tech press echoed this, and some early testers noted tighter refusals in ambiguous cases. For businesses, that translates into fewer risky maybe answers and clearer can't do that moments. There's also a meta safety change beyond ChatGPT-5 itself. The Verge reported that OpenAI added mental health guardrails to GPT the same week it detects prolonged, emotionally intense sessions and nudges you to take breaks. It avoids direct personal advice in sensitive situations, and it can point to evidence-based resources. That's not GPT-5's benchmark score, but it's a product reality your teams will feel. Finally, the discourse. Reuters, the Washington Post, the Atlantic, and the WSJ frame ChatGPT-5 as a barometer for whether the AI hype cycle will pay off. That framing matters because buyers inside enterprise need a story that they can defend in a budget meeting. This is faster, more controllable, and it integrates where people already work. Hey, quick pit stop. If you're enjoying this, hit the like, subscribe, and tap that little bell icon so YouTube knows you're into this sort of thing. Otherwise, the algorithm will just assume you've run away to become a goat farmer in the Alps, which, respectable life choice, but it's hard to get Wi-Fi up there. Seriously though, it helps the channel a lot, and it means we can keep making stuff like this instead of our backup plan, which is narrating elevator ads. Now, let's talk about ordinary days and not product launches. The Washington Post called out 3 notable changes for consumers: steadier writing, more reliable answers on everyday health questions, and better handling of long, multi-step chats. And in Microsoft's rollout, Copilot in Outlook, Word, Teams, and Windows using GPT-5. And you get wins like clearer email drafts, cleaner notes, faster summarization, and calendars that propose real plan options instead of hints. One user described the GPT era as a flood of small improvements that compound. You notice it when a 2-hour chore becomes 18 minutes. When a feedback email that used to take willpower just appears, already polite and specific. An important nuance, however, is that not every metric points up and to the right. In early community chatter, some devs argue that the O3 still beats ChatGPT thinking on a few researchy benchmarks. That's worth tracking as OpenAI tunes the router and as third-party evaluations mature. Competitive reality still matters. But the quality of life story doesn't hinge on a single score. It's the distribution, fewer foot guns, more competent defaults, and the system choosing when to spend thinking compute without you micromanaging it. If you run a team, here's how to evaluate GPT-5 without falling for the headlines. 1. Identify the work that's already software shaped. Anything with input, a policy, a checkable output is ready. Start with email triage, meeting digestion, issue summaries, ticket drafting, Q&A steps, and code review. 2. Decide your routing policy. In tools you control, expose both the fast model and the thinking model. Use the thinking path where missteps are costly or when tasks branch, and default to the main for routine drafting. This mirrors how OpenAI's router makes decisions, but you can encode your own. 3. Instrument at work. Azure, Microsoft 365, and Databricks all announced governed GPT-5 access with telemetry. Use it. Log prompts, tool calls, and outputs. Red team anything that touches the customers. 4. Train for prompt literacy. Teach teams to specify constraints, evidence, and audience. Give templates people can edit. 5. Write your refusal doctrine. GPT-5 is more assertive about boundaries. Decide what you want the system to decline and how to escalate those cases, whether it's the humans, knowledge bases, or domain-specific tools. 3 observations to close us out. First, the UX of AI is shifting from choice to orchestration. With routing, the app decides when to think hard. That will become normal across assistants. Second, enterprise AI will look less like chat and more like audited agents. Azure's Foundry and Microsoft's Copilot announcements point in that direction. Policy-governed tools that act, cite, and log. Third, the competitive gap narrows. Forbes and The Atlantic frame GPT-5 as a reset moment, not a knockout. Expect fast responses from Anthropic, Google, Meta, and open-weight ecosystems. The winner may be the one who routes best and governs best, not just who reasons best. So yes, routers, the Washington Post, and OpenAI's own papers will give you the numbers. But the story that matters is simpler. With GPT-5, work becomes software. You describe the outcome, the system chooses how deep to think, which tools to use, and where to hand back control. The question is this another step towards an AI-powered future that makes life better for all of us, or another inch closer to the existential abyss? Let me know in the comments.